Over the next 20 minutes, I'm just going to run through three things really with you. I want to share our story of Show My Homework, how we've grown over the last couple of years. I want to talk about what it really takes to differentiate in the market. And thirdly, I want to share some of our learnings about scaling and growing overseas. So if I start off with Show My Homework, what is it? So in a nutshell, our software platform makes it really, really easy for classroom teachers to be able to create homework activities that students can complete on any device. That means parents can stay ahead of the curve and be informed about homework without finding out at lastminute.com at parents' evening. For students, they get to use the devices that they love. And for teachers, we help them with the one thing that they really crave for, which is time. We free up their time and we make their life a lot easier. And then from a school perspective, as you know, if you look around BET today, there's a gazillion digital resources that schools use. So it's very, very difficult for schools to have a unified view of what is being set in terms of homework and learning in terms of what happens after school. So from our perspective, we make it very easy for the school to provide rich data analytics and to produce reports so they can make better decisions in terms of school improvement. This helps kids with that may not necessarily have the tools at home. It also helps with issues around this, are we setting too much homework, too little homework, who's doing it, who's not doing it. So really, that's really our bag. That's what we've been super focused on over the last 4 years. I'll run through a couple of screenshots in terms of what our software looks like. So Show My Homework, you can create lots of different activities, spelling tests, quizzes, numeracy tests, literacy tests. It's really, really clean. We also provide things like insights. So my background, I used to be an assistant head teacher in 2 schools in West London. So I sort of know what it's like to, walk the walk and, sort of talk the talk. I taught for 4.5 years, and one of the things that really frustrated me was I'd see my class on a Monday, I'd teach them, I'd give them homework, and then they'd leave. And then I'd have no idea until I saw them next time, if any of them even looked at the homework, if any of them even, if their parents looked at it, if they opened up any of the resources. So again, what we're trying to do here is, fix the problem and get to the root of the problem before it becomes a really big problem. Because one of the things with young children is habits and routines. And if the kids get into bad habits very, very quickly, it takes time to change that behavior. We also have, over the last 4 years, we've got a large network of teachers, students, and parents. So we've got something like over 5.5 million homework questions created on our platform. Our teachers create over 600,000 every single month. So we have a large community of fantastic homework resources created by teachers for teachers. And then we have a few other really innovative things that within Show My Homework. So you can do annotations on an iPad, on any device. This is really for a small cohort of our users, but this is very, very important that we design Show My Homework for the 21st century as opposed to the 19th century. What I want to talk about is kind of the next stage. How do we really differentiate ourselves in the market? So again, when I started Show My Homework, I was in charge of rolling out a VLE, a virtual learning environment. And my view was virtual learning environments are fantastic if you have the resources, the time, and your staff are willing to put all the effort into getting value out of it. In my case, it wasn't, I didn't have that luxury. And so it was really, really hard to embed a virtual learning environment that does lots and lots of things, very rich in feature. But again, if you're in the trenches teaching 4 or 5 lessons a day, you just don't have time to spend lots and lots of energy on learning these tools. So, we're not the first people in the UK to do homework. Every single VLE, or LMS that you think about in the UK will have a component of homework. But where we're really, really focused on is doing it better than anyone else. I mean, it's and not just product. I mean, service, support, training, account management. All of these things you need to be able to do to really differentiate. But what we can see here is the UK VLE market is really fragmented. And even there's lots of people here who will say they're in 10,000 schools. They're not really in 10,000 schools. And that's just the sheer nature of the market today. And it's the same with like what I call MIS systems. So, if you have things like SIMS and a whole bunch of other ones, the school information systems, they're not designed to do homework, behavior, attendance. It's like anything. If you want to do something really, really great that's going to really move the needle, you need to absolutely focus. You just can't do too many things. And again, that's one of the reasons why we've been able to differentiate. You know, if you come to our stand or you walk by our stand, you'll know in 30 seconds what Show My Homework does. You could quite easily walk past a whole bunch of these companies with your teacher hat on and have no idea what they do. So yeah, I guess, you know, we're not in the space to like replace virtual learning environments or learning management systems. They do lots and lots of things. But where we really focused on is, you know, thinking about the teachers first. You know, clear, simple, clear value proposition. What I find this also really, really important is, if I think about the macro trends that are happening in the world today, if all of us in front of me here today have smartphones, and the best applications or apps on smartphones are single value proposition. You go in, you go out, it does one thing really, really well, and then you move on to the next one. And when I think about in a school environment, I'm seeing this more and more. There's a real place for single value proposition tools within a K-12 environment at least. The big learning management systems, the big solutions, I believe we'll see that they'll start unbundling. But what will underpin all of that is you'll have a data layer, and every single one of these apps will have a single sign-on. And you know, we at Show My Homework, we really believe in that vision because that's something that we're doing a lot in our personal life and the personal tools that we use. And I guess, you know, if I think about, I've not really talked about, well, you know, what sort of scale we're in, so I'm going to dive into that now. So these are, you know, our software solves a real problem. And again, that's another thing why we've been able to scale, is it's not really whizzy. You know, it's not the sexiest product, but it absolutely solves a problem. And teachers really, really can empathize and appreciate that and resonate with it. So today we're used by, you know, thousands of schools all around the world. We've got some of the best brands in education that use our software. We've got traction in real customers all the way from, like, you know, the US, the UK, Middle East, Germany, and a whole bunch of other places. We've raised less than £500,000 over the last 4 years. We've got over 3 million users. We've got 25% market share in the UK. We've got over 50 million page views. And I guess one of the things that you realize when you're building a real business in education is it's very operational. It's not just the software. You will have people in support. You'll have people in account management. You'll have training. You'll have you know, product development. The software is just one component in order to be really, really successful. And that's something where we've really, really invested in. We employ nearly 60 people now, and our office is about half an hour from here in Newham. And we're really, really proud of what we've done. We're really, really focused on operating KPIs. So this is something I see a lot of startups, they sort of don't really think about. But for us, these are really, really key in building a sustainable business that can scale up, particularly when we're thinking about new markets where you want to replicate the success. So things like retention rate, customer satisfaction, training score, these are all things that we're really conscious of on a weekly basis. And, you know, in terms of reaching the market, it's expensive. There's no two ways about it. You know, you can't just be a digital-only a company. You have to go to the trade shows. You have to go out there. You have to go and see clients. There's no silver bullet in education. There really isn't. Anyone, you know, that says they can just sell to 10,000 schools using one channel and do it quickly, I just can't see that happening. You might be able to get 10,000 teachers, but if you want to build a huge business in education, you need a very long-term view, because one of the things that becomes a big barrier to entry for other people is your reputation and distribution. Once you have those two things, and you can underpin that with great product, great service, schools will really never leave you. But you have to be in it for the long run. And I don't believe there's no two ways of doing it. And as I said earlier on, we're really anal about customer service. Like any fast-growing startup, we've made a whole bunch of mistakes, and that really impacts schools. When you become integral to schools like we are with homework, even any sort of downtime, any sort of any bugs, it causes a lot of problems for end users, and that's something we're not proud about. But one of the things we don't do is go quiet. We'll be responsive on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. Every single channel where we can be responsive, we will. And hopefully teachers can appreciate that. And as long as that problems are not continuous and you fix them, schools are quite supportive. So again, we have like thousands of teachers, millions of users. We have a great reputation in the space. Another thing in terms of like scaling up, this is what we see. If you do a really great job in a certain area or in a certain school, schools talk. And what will happen is you start to get referral effects and network effects. And again, like the world that we live in today with social media, people will go on Twitter, will go on all these channels and say, hey, is anyone using Show My Homework? What are they like? Is this just a fad? And what's so exciting, or what I'm really proud about, is when we get a whole bunch of people who say, it's amazing, we've been using it for 2 years, blah, blah, blah. That speaks volumes when that happens. But you can't do that overnight. You need to build those relationships, build that brand, and really provide a great service. What's also interesting now is as we're growing, when we first started, most of our contracts would be 1-year deals. But what we're now seeing, and this is the first time I've really shared this, but 80% of all of our business with all of our schools is multiple-year contracts, 2-year contracts, 3-year contracts, 4-year contracts. And that speaks volumes because they really believe in what we do. The technology has been embedded, and they want to be a partner with us for the long term. And that's something that we're really, really pleased about. And so, like I said, we're used by 1 in 3 schools in the UK. I believe we'll be in over 50% market share in the next 12 to 18 months. And so we've been really thinking about, overseas. How can we grow into other markets? Show My Homework is a platform. We don't focus on content, so we can apply our platform in any market. And that's been proven already in terms of the customers that we have in other countries. But education is a huge, huge market, and the UKTI is a great organization to partner with. They've certainly helped us, particularly in the Middle East, some of the work where we've done in Switzerland, just giving us that real insight and due diligence that you need to do before you go out and spend some money. And again, I would say, even before you think about doing anything internationally, really think about making sure you have a very clear model in terms of how you're going to scale and expand. One of our strengths here in the business in the UK is the commercial side of the business is down to a fine art. And a lot of technology companies, they sort of don't focus on that as much as they really should. We're really, we know exactly what it takes to have predictable revenue at every single stage, from a customer inquiring about a product all the way through to what percentage of customers will move from a lead to a customer in a 30-day period, 60-day, 90-day, 120-day. We've got that down to like within 5%. We're really, really confident about what revenue will look like in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. And because we're so confident, that means we can invest and have real confidence in the actions that we take. But this is critical. And I would say don't even bother about international markets if you've not really, really nailed this. And I guess this is where I want to share some of our learnings. So, we've been doing some work in the US, in the USA, in the Middle East, and a few other countries where, one of the things that I've learned over the last 8-9 months is when you start your business in another market, it really is another business, and that means that you have to go all in. And one of the things that we didn't do over the first 4 months is we didn't go all in. Even though we had lots of things in place, we did a lot of planning, we did a lot of due diligence, we put capital in, we worked with some great people. As a founder, as a CEO, or my core management team, one of us really should have gone out there and driven that business, and we didn't. And that's one of the reasons why I don't think we've grown as fast as we could have in certain markets. But we've learned a lot from that experience, and we know what we're going to do. We know what we're going to do differently in the markets that we're attacking now. But if I just touch on that a bit further, so yeah, be very mindful about going to new markets. And be mindful if you're going too early. So you've got to make sure product is absolutely nailed. It's localized. Every single thing works. If you're going to integrate with local partners, make sure all the integrations are in place, because there's really no point having a commercial team or salespeople if they can't sell the product, if the product is not ready. And that's something that definitely you need to think about. Plan. I know, I'm not, as an entrepreneur, I just want everything done yesterday. And sometimes I need to rein myself in, be super focused and do all the boring stuff, because if we do the really boring stuff, it will help us accelerate in the future. And build brand awareness. We work with a local partner. We have an office in LA, and we've got one person in New York. But you don't really need to do any of those things. And again, in hindsight, if I could, I would have spent a lot more money building out brand awareness through digital media, through marketing, just getting people, particularly teachers, aware of what we do. And then once we've done that, then go out there and spend money on human resources and salespeople. And again, budget. So make sure you have. Again, this sounds like common sense, right? And maybe I've just made too many mistakes as an entrepreneur. But make sure you have a budget. Put a certain amount of money aside that is not going to impact your UK operations, because for a company like us, we've raised very little money. We've done we've done very, very well the last 4 years. We do £3.5 million in bookings. From 0 to £3.5 million in bookings is impressive with little money we've raised. But make sure that we've got budget aside for US expansion, because when you're operating as lean as us, if you have 1 or 2 bad months, it really impacts cash flow. And so that's something, again, I would say, if you're going to do another market, put money aside, and don't be afraid. If that money should not impact your UK operations. That's the point I'm making there. And the last one is, be very, very clear. Have clear goals. Have clear time frames. For example, I can give you some examples here. Like the US market is very seasonal. We started doing operations in the summer, and by that point, a lot of the schools had already made their decisions. So when we came to selling in October, November, December, it wasn't schools are not interested. We had an immense amount of interest, but they'd already had 4 or 5 other digital initiatives already in the pipeline. And so again, in hindsight, if I knew that, or if I was even listening to myself when I was thinking about those things, we probably wouldn't have made those mistakes. So there's lots of really, really important things you need to consider when doing a new market. And I guess that's really it. Where we are today, we're growing really, really well in the UK. We're very, very strong in the Middle East.